Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sirenitas. As always, I'm joined by my partners, Kevin Stone and Adam Kirchin. And tonight we begin our college coaches series with our good friend from the University of Maine, head football coach Jordan Stevens. Coach Stevens, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we appreciate the time, my friend, and we're looking forward to talking some Maine football. And before we do that, we do want to remind you guys that if you are in the market to purchase your first home or purchase your next home, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also email him at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, he and his team are ready to assist you. They are available anytime, including nights and weekends. Again, that number is 781-254-2846, or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. And Coach Stevens, again, I can't say thank you enough for taking the time to join us tonight. We're excited to talk some Black Bears football. And let's start with the spring. Spring ball wrapped up about a month ago now. Just some overall thoughts on how the spring went and where are the Black Bears right now as we speak in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I first just want to, say, really impressed with your guys' coverage of football in New England, and certainly feel your presence and appreciate you guys being here for our spring game at the end of our spring practice. So, really appreciate that, John, Kevin, and Adam. Spring practice, I thought we had a productive spring and really got going in the right direction, and coming off the winter and really getting into the month of April, where we were able to really have a great schedule. I thought the schedule was really, really good and helped us, have productive practices where it was a great teaching and learning environment where we were able to have days off in between. And that, I thought that was one of the best setups we had, just based on our timing and the weather and the way that things worked out. We have a new indoor facility here, which allowed us to get started a little bit earlier this year. So all that really helped us build our identity. And I thought coming out of the spring, that our identity was more shown on the field. And I feel like we have more knowns at this time of year than I have in the past 2 years of who we're going to be. And I think that's something we've talked about as a staff, is just knowing who we are. We don't want to get into the third game of the season and try to find out, well, this is who we are. We want to go through adversity. And I thought we did that throughout spring practice. We want to give the players those type of adverse moments and challenges within practice and sudden changes, so we can see them respond. And I thought they responded really well. So thought we ran the ball well. I think that's improved. I think our defense and our identity as a black hole has really improved here.
I've got a recruiting question. I've actually got a couple of them, but one of the things I'm most impressed by when I look at your roster is you've got guys from Maine on the team. Like, you don't just sort of pay lip service to recruiting your state. You really do it. And one guy that I think I'm curious to see how he fits in with you is Noah Carpenter. I think it's Noah Carpenter, right, from Lebanon.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I love watching this guy's film because he can play quarterback. If he wanted, I'm sure he could play wide receiver or running back.
Yeah.
He could play safety. He could play linebacker. This is such a great, diamond in the rough that if there isn't a school name, somebody probably overlooks him. But what a player he is, and what do you see out of him?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we do take a lot of pride in recruiting the state of Maine, and something we've been out. We've been out at every high school this past year, and each year we're getting out and just want to know the ins and outs of who our top prospects are and keep them in state. Noah. I mean, you said. I mean, the kid's a baller. I mean, you saw him. I think they're class C, and they played 3 Class A teams and beat them all. He's a star in the baseball field as well. He's going to play baseball as well his first year here. So he's in football and baseball. It's funny on his visit, he's probably one of the most confident guys we've had come out of high school in my time here, just seeing how he handled himself in our locker room, on campus during the visit. It was really neat to see. And he's got a great family, great student, he's going to start out at quarterback. And I think he has the opportunity to prove himself there. But as you mentioned, I mean, he really is versatile where he could play different positions.
Coach, I wanted to actually piggyback off Adam's question a little bit. Now, I was counting earlier. I think you have 25 New England guys total on this roster. And if I'm wrong, correct me. But just in terms of, centralizing your recruiting on New England guys, do you feel like this area is starting to get even more attention than maybe it's ever had?
Yeah, I think the resources just thinking about the state of Maine, the resources our players have here in the state. If college football and football in general is your passion, there's a path to developing yourself, because that's what it's all about, is the exposure and the development, and that has really improved. And then just speaking about the other New England states, we've really put a lot of coaches in New England. Even in recruiting, we have 3 coaches in Massachusetts, we have 1 coach in Connecticut, but that's been really good just to have that oversight of their area. I do think it's improved. I think just there's more awareness around New England football, and I think the quarterback development within within New England has been outstanding. You see all these quarterbacks going all over the country, so we don't have to go too far to find really high character football players.
Coach Stevens, one of the things I do want to talk about is you did have some change at the coordinator positions, both offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Talk a little bit about that. How were you able to fill those voids, and how do you think the new coordinators fit in the spring?
Yeah, just talking on the offensive side of the ball. Mikhail Waters, really excited for Mikhail and this opportunity for him and for our team. Really, I mean, Mikhail is he's a passionate football coach who has really, he's had a lot of different roles here on our staff. So he's been tight ends coach, he's been co-special teams coordinator, then he's special teams coordinator, he coached the wide receivers last year, now he's coaching the quarterbacks, and now he's the offensive coordinator. So it's really like a main progression, bless you.
Thank you.
A progression that a lot of coaches that have come up through here have had, where they've coached a lot of different positions and then moved into that coordinator role. And anytime we can promote from within, I feel like that's a recipe for success. So Mikhail has really done a great job and seems like a natural fit there. And Umberto DeMeo, again, a New England guy, was at Springfield College, G8 at Boston College, spent some time at Rhode Island, even back to his first time in Maine Maritime. So he's someone that I've had a relationship with before he got here. And then now that he's here, he's again, really has done a great job of instilling the identity that certainly I know the Black Hole to be, and has really led that charge. So excited for him and excited for his leadership.
You talk about identity, and one of the things I do kind of want to follow up my question with is, when you think of Maine football in New England, whether it was when Coach Cosgrove was there or Coach Charlton or you now, going way back, but even before Coach Cosgrove, but when you think about Maine football, it really is about, and I know sometimes this can be overstated in these parts, but it really is about running the football, physical offensive and defensive line play. And you mentioned the black hole on defense, swarming on defense, and making plays. Do you feel, and you kind of sort of touched on this earlier, but do you feel now at this stage of the game, going into your 3rd year, that the program is in a place now where you can play to that identity?
I do. I think, coming off last year, we talked about identity. I think we really wanted, those things of running the football. We knew we had to be better at running the football, and that's something that really we know that's a part of the game I feel like we can control, and that starts in the weight room. So those identity pieces that make up Maine football, and I think you're spot on, is, I think that started in January, and that starts in the weight room. So the level of physicality, the level of violence, the level of togetherness that we had to have has, that started back in January. And for our players, I really tried to piece it all together for them. Like, we're not just going to call on being tough, being physical when we get to spring practice or when we get to preseason camp. Like, this has to be our mentality in everything we do. So, there's been a lot of pieces. Obviously, the players make it go. The coaches provide the leadership, and we're hoping that they take it and run with it. But that has certainly been there. I really feel passionate about just up front, like O-line, D-line, especially here at Maine, really love those guys and put an emphasis on finding the right offensive and defensive linemen here at Maine. So, I feel like we've taken a step in the right direction in doing that.
There's a guy on your roster who I think is still with you, but he's I think this might be his last year. Is Robbie Roby?
Yeah.
Out of Everett. Now this is a guy I'm sure you know, like was on a very stacked high school football team at Everett. I'm sure. I mean, I know you've seen the film of it, but it's just amazing how many. I mean, I think 3 of those guys are in the NFL right now.
Right.
But Robbie, I thought, was kind of overlooked even when he was at Everett because he was a very good player, like a safety, just a physical player. And again, his career sort of straddles COVID, like it does for a lot of guys. But what has he brought to your program, especially somebody who I'm sure at some point could have transferred?
Yeah, Robbie. Love Robbie. He, him and I have developed a really strong relationship. He's, certainly a tough young man, and has been through a lot, even on and off the field with injuries and things that went on with his life, and he's overcome a lot. And he shows up with a positive attitude every day and ready to work. And he's coming off an injury last year and had surgery this offseason, so we're hoping to have him a full go. But to your point, I mean, he had every opportunity to go somewhere else. I mean, and I know he came from a great Everett program and was on state championship teams there. As you mentioned, I think he was one of his teammates. I think he played at Georgia, right? And he got drafted. Yeah. So he was down in Texas with him at his at the draft last year. So he was down there. So awesome. Robbie's been outstanding.
That's great.
Coach, I want to go back to identity for a minute. And 2 years ago, you guys played up here at BC. I think it was a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. You didn't win the game, but you put quite a scare into them, and it sort of felt like that was the aha moment for this program in terms of kind of shifting how people viewed you guys. If not that game, can you point to one particular, I guess, point in these last 2 years where it's okay? We're starting to turn the corner. Like, can you visually see where that started to happen?
Yeah, I mean, that game, to your point, I mean, even within that game, I felt like that we played with a level of physicality, a level of passion, on offense and defense, and in the kick game, we had a big kick return in that game. Came up short in the end, and then when they went into a 4-minute mode. But there was a lot of good identity clips on that in that game that felt like there was something that's how I wanted to look. That's who I was as a player. That's who I've been as an assistant coach. That's who I am as a person. Those strain that our players play with, the effort, the finish, the toughness. That was certainly on display there. Another moment would probably be North Dakota State. I think they had the first half. North Dakota State had the ball inside the red zone the first 4 possessions, and they walked away with 3 points. We had 2 goal line stands. So that was really neat to see, and our players really battled. I mean, even looking at like us starting last year at FIU, we lost by 2 points, but we were right there on the goal line with a chance to score, or a chance to get some points, and didn't get them. But those things we've learned from. I think we have, and certainly something to build on.
Yeah, you really, when you look at those first couple of weeks last season, you played 6 good quarters of football. Second half of that North Dakota State game, they started to pull away. But to your point, Coach, I mean, you win that FIU game in many ways, as you know, games like that can serve as a springboard. And certainly to your point, you guys are obviously learning from that. I do want to ask you about the quarterback position. Of course, Derek Robertson has moved on. You have some talent in that quarterback room: Anthony Harris, Eddie Bueller, Caden Dreslick. Talk about those guys. PV, what have you seen from those guys, and what are you looking forward to in terms of a quarterback competition?
Yeah, there's certainly a competition there right now, and really like the group of guys we have. Anthony, someone who's been in the program, and this is his fourth year. So maybe his fifth year now. He'll be a grad student, and but he's someone that played a little bit last year. He came in the Richmond game, led the offense down, scored a touchdown. It played in some other roles like in the Stony Brook game, and we had him in some special teams moments as well. So he's been in there. He's played some football games for us, and I think he brings a level of athleticism. He's got a really strong arm. Of course, there's things we're working on. We're all working on, and he's working on. But I think he's been really. He had a really good spring, and someone who's developing his voice as a leader. Carter Peavy coming in here from Mercer, and obviously we're part of a playoff team last year. And Carter's come in and really from Georgia, went to school in Georgia, back up here in Orono, Maine. So it's been a transition, but it's he's really a resilient young man who has handled it really well and come in here and competed hard. I thought during the spring and got better throughout the spring. I think got better throughout the. I thought his spring game was his best game, and then you mentioned Caden Drezick from Seymour down in Connecticut. He's he really has gotten the best shape I've seen him in. I saw him today out there working out. He's really matured, and he's a bigger physical kid. He's got a live arm too, so he's involved with that competition. And then just see Eddie, bringing in Eddie Bueller. We're really excited about Eddie and just love the intangibles, his leadership, but also just like his arm talent and someone that we really scouted hard. So I feel really confident about Eddie and how he's going to shape here at Maine.
Yeah, and I think that's part of life in college football nowadays, right? Where you do have a lot of turnover in terms of your roster in general, but especially now in the quarterback room. But you mentioned Carter Peavy. There's of course, URI is obviously in the CAA as well. They brought in Hunter Helms from Clemson. Why do you think we're seeing more and more of these quarterbacks from the Mid-Atlantic and down south come up this way? Is it strictly because they see an opportunity to play right away, or is it that, but it also says something about the level of competition in the CAA?
Yeah, I think with the transfer portal, players are more willing to travel further away. They're a little bit older. The distance doesn't scare them off like it might, when they're 17. So the other piece of that I do believe is the CAA. The CAA does attract really strong talent. I thought the talent level within the conference from 2022 to 2023 was improved immensely. I thought the size, the athleticism within the league improved as well. There's some big physical players in this league. There's talented players in this league. And I think that's been noticed. And each year there's 4 to 5 teams within the conference that are in the playoffs. So if you look around in college football and if you want to play in the playoffs, you want to compete for championships, this is the league you want to be in. And that's really shown with the level of quarterbacks that have come into the league and in other positions as well.
I'm curious because I feel like one of the best parts of college football, any level, is the rivalries, where you could be D3, D2, D1, wherever you go. There's at least one big game on the schedule for you for the team that's in it. And I'm talking about UNH. I feel like it's just one of the best rivalries in New England. It doesn't get talked about enough, I'm sure. But how do you feel about that UNH rivalry? What's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that it's a program goal to beat UNH. So that's something that we talk about year round. I've been on the other side as a player, an assistant, and being in this seat, and I knew it was something that I wanted to make a point of. That was a goal of ours, not just called upon the last week of the season. So something that we're, they have our attention. We have a ton of respect for New Hampshire, and their legacy, but also where they're going and who they are currently. They do an outstanding job. They're a well-coached team. I thought they're outstanding last year on special teams. I think they're sound in everything they do. So that's a special rivalry. I think our players really enjoy being part of that. And that's a selling point for me. I always talk to recruits and coaches about you want to go somewhere where there's a rivalry game, and there's a traditional rivalry game. Not many there are a lot of schools that have that, but not many have them where it's a trophy game. If there's something to play for every year at the end of the season, no matter the record, there's something to be proud of, to play for. So we're fortunate to be a part of that rivalry.
Coach, we talk about how competitive the CAA is. Not many people know that you were actually in the Ivy League with Yale for a while. We've debated on this show, God knows how many times, just which league is more competitive. And we've enjoyed covering the Ivy League maybe more than anybody because of that. Just a little bit on your time with Yale, and have you kind of kept up with what they're doing? Obviously, back-to-back Ivy titles, and arguably one of the better programs in New England right now.
Yeah, Coach Reno does an outstanding job. He's got a vision. He drives that ship there, and does an outstanding job. And there's a reason why they've won championships, and I think they've had 4 draft picks in the last 5 or 6 years. There's really talented players there. Coach Reno's going to go recruit against anyone he can. He's not afraid of any competition that's out there. So, no surprise that they're where they're at. Not only when they're getting good players, but they develop them as well, and they develop leaders, and they do a great job. So, but yeah, I have catch up. I have a number of the coaches there are still there. Players, we actually have one player coming to us from a grad transfer. Jermaine Baker's coming up here to play linebacker. So excited to get him on the roster here as well.
You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sirianidis. Our guest this week is Jordan Stevens, head football coach of the Maine Black Bears. We are kicking off our college coaching series. And before we continue the conversation here with Coach Stevens, I do want to remind you that if you are in the market to sell your current home or purchase your first home, give Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also email Herb at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. Coach Stevens, one of the things that's always impressed me about Maine, and this really, I think, goes back to previous head coaches as well, is how well you guys recruit, not only in New England, but in many ways, you are a national and international recruiting program, specifically Canada. What has been a key to your success in terms of recruiting Canadian players to come here and play at Maine?
Yeah, there's been really some outstanding players that have come here. That really started not so much when I was a player here, but then the early 2010s, and then early 2020, 2018, 2017 to now. There's really been football has grown, I think, at the high school level in a big way in Canada. The pockets where we're looking are, Quebec City, Montreal, Toronto. We actually have an offensive lineman here right now that's from Prince Edward Island, but he was over at, I think it was football North. So, there's they get players from all over Canada too. So some of these schools have players from all over Canada. That's been for us. I mean, if you go to Montreal, you're talking 5 hours. So, we're able to make that work. And we can't say enough about, the Canadian players that we have. They've all been, terrific, and guys that have contributed big time in this program.
Along those same lines, one thing that is really starting to catch fire these last few years are showcase days. You see it from individual prep schools sort of working together. You see it as like the Catholic Conference, the Hockomock League, just coaches just doing whatever they can to get their kids in front of coaches. What do you think? I feel like you guys had people at those those showcase days. What do you think that as a development for high school and college football?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, just showing that there's a lot of high school coaches out there that are going to do whatever they can to help their players and get recruited. That's evident in Massachusetts. That's evident in Connecticut. Um, they're going to go above and beyond, and that's what they've done. They've come together and worked together to put those showcases together, and not only the private schools but public schools as well as you mentioned. That's been really helpful for us. Everything is about seeing players live, getting evaluations, live evaluations. I mean, nothing beats that. So that's really helped bridge the gap between high school and college, and something that I'm a big advocate of. And there's we've had conversations with high school coaches here, and they've talked about putting those things together here in the state of Maine, because I think it really benefits, especially when there's so many these guys that are playing other sports as well in the spring. So it gives them an opportunity to get in front of coaches.
Coach, I'm going to piggyback off Adam again. He's got some good questions tonight, but the FCS and FBS gap, it feels like it's as small as it's ever been. And it really it stands out at those showcases. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like FCS and FBS really aren't that much different anymore?
Yeah, I think, depending on what league you're talking about, like a group of five or something like that. I know when you get to I don't know what we call them now, but Power Four conference, that the top end are certainly separated from us. But within FCS football, we've the talent level, like I said, within the CAA, from what I saw from just like a 1 year turn, you look at schools like Albany, their guys were older, they're more mature. That when you're getting transfers in, you're going to have more developed players playing in the league, and that's what you see is you have to be physically ready to play in this league, and that has certainly bridged the gap of what you're mentioning of that difference between FCS and FBS. That's closed within this league on a whole, I believe.
Yeah, and I guess my follow-up to that would be portal versus high school recruiting. It's a big topic of conversation now, Coach Stevens, where more and more programs are dipping into the portal. They're relying on the portal. And in many ways, the portal is a quick fix, right? If you're trying to build a program, it's an easier way to I don't want to say get better faster, but you're bringing in guys that have played before, that have more experience, that are looking for an opportunity. How do you and your staff balance that from a recruiting standpoint, the portal versus high school recruiting, and finding that balance? Because I feel in coaches that we talk to, whether it be head coaches or assistants, you're seeing more and more of a pivot to the portal. But the reality is, as we go along here, you've got to find that balance, because you still want to build organically. You're still going to need the high school kids.
I agree. I mean, my first year, we probably took 30 high school players. This past year, I think it's around 18 to 20. So now we have guys in the program that are high school players that will be going on their second year, somewhere on the third year. So we got to continue to develop them. We have to take care of them while they're here. We have to retain them, and get them better. To me, I bet if you looked at our roster, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say 25 to a third are transfers. And those situations come up where it's more to do with availability. Who do we have on our roster? Who needs more time? Or who can play right now? Certainly, if there's someone here who can play right now, we expect that. But I think it just all this stuff goes back to character is the most important thing now, more than it's ever been. Because we're really looking for well-rounded young men who love football, are selfless, are committed to the process of what it takes to be great, what it takes to be a great teammate. And that can be in the portal, that can be a guy who comes in from the portal, that can be a high school guy. But I just want to make sure we're bringing in team first players here to Maine. We're in Maine, so we're 3 hours into Maine. If you're coming here to shine on your own, it's not going to work. This is a team. If the team shines, you'll shine. Okay, and that's pivotal. Like that's at the forefront. So we really want to be honest about those things up front. That don't come here if it's not if the team's not the most important thing. And no one's gonna. People want to hire people out of successful businesses, corporations, teams. So for you to get anywhere, you're going to need to be about the team and the team first. So that's why I put my focus in anytime I'm talking to, whether it's a prospect, whether it's high school or a transfer. I think the second level is just, who can help us win. Obviously, it does feel like at times it's become more of a year-to-year basis. Like, we're resetting in January, and here we go. We're going to make a push. And then next January, we'll reset again. Because some of those things have become transactional. But we're really looking to be more transformational in our approach here.
So I've been following college football my whole life, and I almost don't recognize it anymore, just because, not even because of the transfer NIL, but because of the conference changing with, you got USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. You see no more Pac-12 or Pac-10, whatever you want to call it. How much do you pay attention to that, and how much do you feel that could be a trickle down eventually into the FCS and how that sport is presented?
Yeah, you've seen some teams come up from Division II to FCS football. You've seen shifting within a lot of the conferences at the FCS level. When you look at like the SoCon and Big South, and then Ohio Valley, and then you look at, even with our conference with Richmond leaving, but we got Bryant coming in. So, I think those shifts, I think, are going to happen. I think there'll be some more to come, but I think the great thing about, like, you talk about Maine, we were one of the grandfather teams within the old Yankee conference and to where it is now. So we really have something to stand on in terms of, like, all right, where we've been and where we're going, and we're solidified in. And I know everyone here is really committed to being in the CAA, competing in the CAA, competing for championships.
Coach, the CAA is, steeped in tradition, really, with every program. Maine in particular has a very rich tradition that you've been a part of. Just in terms of, the overall generic kind of scene that is New England college football and that is the CAA. How important has the alumni base been for you, just in terms of recruiting and support as you try to not necessarily rebuild, but get things back to where they were?
Yeah, we that was something that I was really focused on doing when I got the job here, is formalizing our alumni base, getting them organized, and that's something we've been able to do. We have a much better understanding of who our alumni are, spanning from the 70s, even the 60s. I'm going to talk to the Tangerine Bowl team from the 60s here in a couple weekends. Those guys get together every year. So from the 70s, the 80s, into the 90s, and from the even into the 2000s, and most recently, there's a lot of success in the 2018 team. So their support is huge. And when you talk about now more than ever, where you see everything going, obviously at the higher levels, you can pay players now. But for us, it's like, there's a level of support that has to be increased from your alumni for you to have success as a football program and to stabilize your roster, whether that's NIL or, just overall support to the program. There's certain resources we have to be competitive within the CAA, but within FCS football. So our alumni have been really great. I was fortunate to come in here with a really strong understanding. Having played here, but then I'm being an assistant here, I'm really close with Coach Cosgrove. He's a huge mentor of mine. So I have a close someone who can bridge the gap. If there's anyone within our alumni base that I don't know, he usually knows them. So I have a really strong resource there, and Coach Cosgrove. And that's been really helpful. And we have a alumni gathering this summer in Boston, all of our NFL, CFL alums, and then a lot of anyone else who wants to join in. I think that number is going to get over 100 in terms of alumni coming back together. So we're working that, and want them to feel the brotherhood that is Maine football, want them to feel that connection back here to Maine.
Coach, earlier we talked about the quarterback situation and the quarterback competition. Whoever does win that competition is going to have a good skill group that they're going to be able to play with. You got Tavion Banks back at running back, Joe Gillette, Montego Moss at wide receiver. Who are some other guys offensively, both in terms of the skill group and along the offensive line, that we should be watching for as we headed towards fall camp?
Yeah, certainly those guys you spoke of, but then you're looking at a guy like Jahari Martin is a name to know. Jahari had an outstanding spring. He's a transfer from Montana State. He was really the catalyst of our run game, and I think Coach Boucard did a great job with our offensive line, really improving our offensive line. Joe Horn, someone you might know the name of, he was at UMass before he came here.
Yep.
We have a lot of guys that we've developed up front as well, and Nick Krugy, Jack Butow, who's from Levitt High School here in Maine, same as Noah Carpenter. We have a number of guys up front who have played here, but then I see them growing and developing and helping us. Just looking outside, like on the perimeter, Jamie Lamson, from Southington, Connecticut. Jamie was our MVP this last year, led our team in catches last year, has worked tremendously hard for the past year and a half, transformed his body, got himself in great shape, and that's shown on the field and special teams, but also his production as a receiver here. And then just another guy in offense to know about is Cooper Heisey, our one of our tight ends, who's a transfer from Rutgers, played quarterback there, got moved to tight end, but never got a chance to play tight end there, but came here, and he's been a tremendous leader for us. I feel like we have a really strong tight end room with depth. So we'll be able to get into formations with multiple tight ends and bring a level of physicality to what we do.
I was curious. I'm sure there are going to be guys that drive up to camp there. And aside from just being a really good football player, what are you looking for in a Maine Black Bear football player?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, it's we want to have someone who loves football. I mean, you are coming to Maine, to Orono, Maine. This is not a big city. We're 3 hours into Maine. So if you don't love football, this is not the place for you. So we got to have guys who love football. What does that mean? They love the process. They know how important academics are. They can connect the dots that, hey, I have to do well in school if I want to play football. And they have a passion about being a great teammate. So selfless players are what we're looking for. And I feel like we've really done that, is improved the character of our players here. And we've grown tremendously. So we have guys in games that we can trust that in the moment, we need this guy to catch the ball. We know that he's going to come up with a catch because he does all the right things off the field. He does all the right things in the weight room. He's a great team guy, so he's going to come through. He believes in who we are. So, those are the things we're looking for. Just being more direct about what we're looking for, being more vocal about what we're looking for as a staff, as a program in recruiting, I think always helps. I think there's a lot of expectations that are set from when you meet a recruit, when you have them on campus, the things you're talking about, like minds are going to be attracted. So, if this mom and dad and this prospect like what I say or what we're about as a staff, and they get a good feel here, they're going to be attracted to come here. If they don't, then they won't. But I think that always lends itself to being a better relationship in the end. Is we're going to find guys who are what we want them to be, but we have to be vocal about that. We have to believe in who we are, and that's what I've seen us do. So that's translated in just how our guys work. I was at the workout today, and just seeing the positive attitudes our players had was really, really a positive thing. And I took a moment to just look at kind of where we've been and where we're going, and the players are leading that for sure.
Coach, along those same lines, what do you think the biggest selling point is for Maine right now?
Yeah, the selling point, is, I think we have a great staff. We have a great group of players here. This is a tremendous university. Um, this is a flagship school, University of Maine. Wherever you go in this country, if you say Maine, they're going to know where that is. So you have a brand behind you. Not every school can say that. This is the University of Maine, so people know where that is and what that stands for. And you get a great education here. The other thing I think is just playing at a high level here. So you're going to play, as I mentioned, the CAA. I think that's one of the biggest selling points for us here. That can't be underestimated. The fact that we play in the CAA, I believe that's one of our biggest selling points is the level of competition that we play.
Coach Stevens, obviously you are a Maine guy. You played in the program. Now you're the head football coach. You look at the recent tradition of coaches at Maine, whether it be Coach Cosgrove, who you mentioned, or Coach Arasimiak, who took the program to the playoffs, Coach Charlton, who's now coaching in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. Talk about the Maine coaching tradition and what it means to you being a Maine guy, playing in the program, and now leading the program.
Yeah, it's something I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful for the opportunity, grateful every day I come in here to be able to be the head coach and lead this program. And it's something that's deep inside me, my passion, my love for this program and what we can become. I have a positive vision for what we can become. So I spread that belief every day. So it's really neat to be in this position. It's, as I mentioned, when I got the job, 2.5 years ago, it's a full circle moment. I mean, I was calling Coach Cosgrove, calling his secretary when I was in high school, trying to get recruited. I'd write out everything I wanted to say to him. I'd read it on the voicemail. I never got a call back, but so I wasn't even recruited here. Then I went to prep school, had an opportunity, told my dad that if I go there, if you pay for it, I'll get a scholarship. I got a scholarship here. So that was a really neat moment. So this place is, something, I grew as a young man here. I competed, pushed myself further than I have ever pushed myself. I came in here as a young coach, without a voice and without the ability to communicate at a high level. And I feel like I grew a ton, went to Yale and, I think those were really formative years for me. Now that I'm back here in this position, I just try to bring a positive attitude every day and a passion about what we do and a level of mental and physical toughness that I feel like are kind of part of my identity. So really excited about who we are and knowing where we're going.
And I was curious because I know some teams do it, some teams don't want to talk about it, but what are your goals for this season for this team? Have you guys talked about that as a team yet, or is it sort of something that just comes organically?
I mean, our goals are the same each year. Just in terms of how we're going to get there, I'll speak on that. We want to be at the top of the conference in terms of our turnover margin. We want to take care of the football. We want to create takeaways. And then we want to be top of the conference in terms of points scored and points allowed. We know that it's a game of scoring points and it's a game of minimizing points. So, those are the things that we're focused around, and how we get that done can always change. But we know that we have to run the football and in those areas of the game have to be there. Right at the top. I mean, for us, it's to win a CAA championship, and the next thing is we want to be one of the most physically dominant football teams in the country. So, those are the things we're focused on. We feel like there's a process to getting there. We have a path to getting there. We have a vision. We have a way we go about our work so we do accomplish those things. And I think along the way, we'll be happy with the results.
Coach, last one from me. We still have about 2 months till training camp, but as we all know, this time of year, recruiting is nonstop, as we all have seen. What does the schedule look like for you just in terms of recruiting? And I'm sure you guys have some camps as well.
Yeah, we're, our coaches are really working hard right now. All of our staff was out at camps from last Thursday to some got back today. Then they're here with the players from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're in here as a staff getting going on Colgate. Colgate's our home opener. So that's really where our focus is in terms of the season right now is getting prepared for them. And then Montana State. So we're working on those things while we're here in the office. But in and around there, Kevin, is recruiting. So we have to be fluid with that, whether that's transfer recruiting or at the high school level. So we'll be out at camps. I was down at Boston College yesterday. I'll be down there again next week. We'll have all of our first-year players get in here at the beginning of July. We have a couple new players here right now. So it's really about the people, and it's about the people we're bringing in, but also the players here.
Coach, final question here. Of course, season's around the corner. Talk about your 2024 schedule. You mentioned Montana State. You go out there week 2, but later on in the season in November, you guys are going to travel to Norman, Oklahoma to play Oklahoma. Just some thoughts on your schedule, and what does a game like that mean for your program, putting it on a national platform like that and playing that game?
Yeah, I mean, Colgate's got our full attention right now. I mean, that's an outstanding football team with talent on both sides of the ball. And, we had a tight game against them 2 years ago up here in the beginning of the year. And I know they're a very well-coached team. So, that's our main focus right now. And then beyond that, I mean, you mentioned Montana State. These are, a team that's been in the semifinals and the national championship in the past 2 years. And, getting to the Oklahoma game, just to speak on that, I mean, that's I think everyone knows Oklahoma in the brand that is, and they're a perennial powerhouse in college football. They're up there when you think of college football. They certainly come to mind. So to be able to take the University of Maine to Norman, Oklahoma is going to be something really special for us. And I know our players will be ready when that time comes.
Yeah, and there's no question that now more than ever, those games are important because of the portal, because of recruiting. The more you can get your program on a national stage, and that's why you guys aren't just playing Power 4 or Group of 5 schools, but you're also playing prolific FCS schools. You played North Dakota State last year. You're playing Montana State this year. You're playing a really good schedule, but you have a nice balance in that schedule, and that allows you to not only play a competitive schedule, but to really, as you said, get the program out there and continue to build what is a national brand.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's been, I think we want to play the best. We want to challenge our program, and that's certainly what we've done. All these teams, are outstanding football teams who are well coached. So the margins are very slim, and we'll have our hands full all year. And I think we got to stay healthy. We got to practice smart. We got to practice physical, and that balance is always something that we're working to perfect. And that's something we'll be focused on throughout the season, so we can be at our best on Saturdays and not, feeling like we weren't able to get somewhere because of our preparation.
Coach, one final thing here before we wrap up, and it's important to me. When I was a head football coach at Norwood High School from 2010 to 2013, one of my guys walked on at Maine, a guy by the name of Jason Matovu, and he ended up becoming an all-conference safety, and he went to camp with the Houston Texans and the Seattle Seahawks, and he didn't play a down of defense for us at Norwood. He was exclusively a running back. We'd ask him to play defense. He was allergic to playing defense. He came up to me after the season and he said, Coach, I want to go to the University of Maine. And I looked at him and I said, Jay, do you even know where Orono, Maine is? He says to me, yeah, it's in Maine. I go, well, obviously. Go, listen, he told me he wants to play D1 football. Relationships with college coaches was everything to me because I felt I had an obligation as a head football coach to get my guys recruited and give them an opportunity to play college football. But he attacked that opportunity. He walked on. He made the most of it. Like yourself, he paid his way for the first couple of years. Then he ended up being a scholarship player. But what would your message be to guys that have an interest in the University of Maine that are in a similar situation that you were in or Jay was in that are looking for that opportunity?
Yeah, I think there's always a path. I've talked to the players about that here. I mean, we've all taken different paths here, but we're now here together. So, um, if having the ability to connect the dots, I want to get here. If Maine's where you want to be, um, there's a way to get there. We have walk-ons on our team right now who have showed up, and we've done tryouts, and now they're players that play on special teams for us. They've worked themselves into the lineup. Cabrini Gonzalez from Taunton High School in Massachusetts was someone who came here as a walk-on, was the scout team player of the year on offense and defense, and played running back, safety, whatever you want him to play. I mean, he ended up starting in the 2013 team who won the conference championship outright. So if you have a passion for football, if being a great teammate is something you're passionate about, we'll find you. If this is where you want to be and you want to come and be a part of this program, contact us. Whether you're going to school here in general, like is it Matovu, right? And
Yeah.
If it was him, and I remember Jason Matovu, and if it's a situation like that, we want guys who are invested in Maine and believe in who we are and are come here and are hungry to work.
And he did work. He transformed himself. I remember he was our scout team running back, and he had these little toothpick legs. And he was not afraid to mix it up, and he got his ass kicked at practice. And my worst fear, because I said to him one time, I said, Jay, you look like a drunk fawn on a frozen pond. I mean, he'd make all these outrageous cuts, and my fear was that one of his legs was going to get caught under a pile. But he made himself a player, and then he took it to another level. And I think that in many ways, you and the program at the University of Maine embody that, Coach. And I can't say enough about you and the job you guys have done at Maine. And we're fortunate to have the opportunity to cover you guys. Coach Stevens, I want to say thank you for taking the time. And certainly if there's ever anything we can do, let us know. We are here for New England football first. That's our job. And we are proud supporters of the program and all the programs we cover. And please let us know if there's any way we can ever help.
Yeah, appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, John, Adam, Kevin. Thanks for all you do for football in New England, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon along the journey.
We do as well, my friend. Thank you for taking the time,
Jordan.
Coach Stevens. Really appreciate it. That is Jordan Stevens, head football coach of the Maine Black Bears. That'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin and Adam and Coach Stevens, I'm John Serenitas. Till next time, peace.